Been having scale of fees for legal documentation. I think what the issue is now is whether to expand the rules beyond that level to cover other areas of legal practice. Of course, there is a scale of charges at the moment. However, the question is how effective is that scale of charges? Are lawyers making use of the charge scale to charge their clients for? And I think the scale of charges that we have is in respect of properties, leases, and section 51 of the RPC, leases and sale of property, right? So it does not cover other professional responsibilities and all that. So, to my mind, scale of charges, scale of property is fair enough for in respect of properties and leases and sale of property. However, in respect of other areas, litigation, consultancy, and other legal work, I don't think there should be a scale of charges, because already we all charge our clients based on what we think the client can afford. And while I can have a client who is ready to pay me 20 million to prosecute a debt recovery matter, another client, can be ready just to pay 2 million. So it's because of its varied nature. I think in that area we shouldn't have much of regulation.
Well, yes, I believe that for the legal profession there should be a scale of fees applicable to certain transactions, scale of fees applicable to certain practices. This will not only help in determining fees by lawyers, it will also help clients to have an idea of what the cost is going to be before venturing into certain transactions. We've had situations when clients will tell you that this is what they are looking at in paying as fees, and then the lawyer is also charging another thing. But I strongly believe that there should be a scale of fees for transactions for lawyers.
No, I don't think so, because most lawyers these days, they don't use it. And ever since I left the law school, I don't think I've ever used the scale of charging my clients. The amount, whatever, in any deal that you do, if you're using the scale of justice, that means lawyers will be cheated. The scale of charges. So it won't be fair or not. The best thing is just like other people take percentages, the 10%, 5% out of every deal. I think it will be preferable that way.
Well, I feel already the framework that exists sufficiently protects indigent clients. There is already a requirement that lawyers that want to apply for silk must do a number of cases of pro bono. There are a lot of non-governmental organizations formed by lawyers that do cases for the societal less advantaged people. So I believe those people's interests who are genuinely in need of legal services but are unable to pay for those legal services, those people's interests have been sufficiently protected in the current framework.
Yeah, I think there should be scale of charges at set minimum amount lawyers can charge for certain and simple transactions. But I don't think it should be mandatory. I think it should be persuasive. I don't think the scale of charges will be able to capture, all kinds of transactions, especially peculiar transactions. I don't think it will also be able to capture complexities that arise in certain kinds of transactions. That's what I think it should be.
We have that the provision in the RPC is a loose guideline on how to charge professional fees, and the looseness of it is actually the problem. Different people can hide under the provision to charge any amount. I think what we are saying now is a kind of shift to make more specific provisions for case-specific charges. But in that case, we need comprehensive rules that will be capable of being monitored. But the other side of it is that there are some structures that ought to be in place before we can talk of such. If ever there will be a scale of fees, I think it should apply only in commercial transactions. Because commercial transactions are a kind of, will I be right for me to use the word sui generis or something? Because they're in a class of their own, and the fees that are payable in respect of some of those transactions, leaving it unregulated, could make a counsel, some lawyers, overzealous in charging their clients. Unlike if I have an election petition matter, unlike if I have a property dispute matter, land matter that are huge, you know, and acres of, you know, quantity. So in that regard, the scale of fees applying in that regard can be a bit unnecessary. But in capital market transactions, as well as other commercial transactions, there is definitely a need to regulate, at least for profit taking on the side of the clients as well.
I do not believe it should cover all areas of law, but I believe it should cover specific areas of law, especially those areas of law that the extant scale have become obsolete and needs a total overhaul or review. For example, we talk about scale of fee when it comes to real estate practice. Because the scale of fee, that should, as a matter of urgency, be reviewed to conform with the economic reality that we have nowadays.
Okay, I don't think the scale of charges can do it all. I don't see the practicability of having, you know, specific fees for certain kind of transaction, because inevitably complexities will arise in certain kinds of transaction, and I feel that lawyers should have the freedom of being able to choose the amount they can charge a particular client to an extent, depending on your capacity and the capacity of your client, which is also a factor in business. You know.
My problem, if we can have a workable, enforceable scale of fees, I'm for it. But the challenge really is how to effectively monitor and enforce those rules. We shouldn't forget the rules we have for scale of fees in legal documentation. I've never seen it enforced. I've had cases of people charging different amounts for same size of land, same consideration, different lawyers charging different amounts.
I think a scale of charges can be enforced. I think it is enforceable. If we can enforce things like, if we can enforce things that have to do with appearance, like the way we appear in court and so many other things that I do not think are so important. If we can enforce all those little things, I think we should be able to enforce something as important as our fees, which is the reason we go to study law in the first place.